When the hashtag Black Lives Matter first started, I applauded the idea of bringing awareness to and repairing the dysfunctional relationship between inner-city Black communities and the police. However, after Black Lives Matter received $100 million from liberal billionaire George Soros and other liberal organizations, they've become nothing more than a weaponized race-baiting machine, pushing the extreme liberal democratic agenda, calling any and everything that doesn't fit that agenda white supremacy. They just put out a video demanding the NRA take down an ad that condemned the lies and violence committed by other groups connected to their liberal money web.
They use their media to assassinate real news. They use their schools to teach children that their president is another Hitler, all to make them march. The only way we save our country and our freedom is to fight this violence of lies with the clenched fist of truth.
Somewhere between the words they and the obvious metaphor fight this violence of lies with the clenched fist of truth, Black Lives Matter concluded that the NRA was declaring war on Black people.
The only way we stop this, the only way we save our communities and our struggle for freedom is to fight this violence with the raised, clenched Black fist of resistance.
However, I watched the video over and over and over again. And unless there's some unspoken rule that the word they always means Black people, I'm having a hard time seeing where this NRA ad called for violence against anyone, much less against Black people. If anything, the video was calling for fighting violence with truth. Hell, I saw more white people looting and being destructive in the NRA ad than I ever saw watching a Black Lives Matter protest on liberal cable news shows like CNN. The only people they ever showed looting, rioting, and burning stuff down were Black people, while simultaneously ignoring the majority peaceful Black protesters across the street. Dana flat out says it in her ad. They use their media to assassinate real news. But instead of talking about the truth all sides can agree on, we're fighting over a made-up accusation about racial division. According to this Black Lives Matter video, apparently the only people capable of racism against Black people are white conservatives. Yet the egregiously poor state of our Black communities have come under the leadership of the same liberal politicians, liberal organizations, and liberal billionaires for the last 50 years, and our inner city communities are still in disrepair. All the while, the areas where these liberal politicians and billionaire funders live flourish. But they're not the ones declaring war against Black people. Oh, no, it's the NRA, because they made a video where they said they, and showed footage of violent white liberal protesters destroying property in Black communities. Really? Look, I can agree that the legacy of white supremacist racism has and continues to affect many Black people and communities in this country, and it's wrong. However, when you start calling everything that attacks the white liberal agenda white supremacy, the term means nothing. Yes, our inner city schools are a disaster. They're embarrassingly underfunded and have been for decades. These places function more like training facilities for prisons than they do schools, but our inner city schools aren't underfunded because of the NRA. Schools are largely funded by the property taxes in the local area. So it's no surprise that the most affluent areas have the best schools. Take Chicago and their dirt poor education system under the leadership of Rahm Emanuel. These people are renting or in public housing. They can't afford to buy a house in the beautiful suburbs of Chicago with a good school system. They can't live in the north side of Chicago either, where despite the same tax base, the schools are magically better funded. These families can't afford it because they're living on a single income of a household headed by a single Black mother. The question then becomes, what happened to the fathers? Now, no one thing can explain all of this, but what did happen was the 1994 crime bill, written by Joe Biden and signed into law by Democratic President Bill Clinton. And it locked up millions of Black fathers for the same petty drug offenses that are now creating millionaires out of liberal white kids with weed dispensaries in California. And this is nothing new, because for decades, our communities have been run by deceitful liberals and Democrats who promise us the stars and the moon during election cycles and then disappear once they're in office. Their tactics are always the same. buy off well-meaning black leaders and black organizations like Black Lives Matter with insane amounts of cash so that they're incentivized to sell out and push their liberal democratic agenda under the guise of improving the community by advocating the exact same racist laws and policies that continue to perpetuate the horrible conditions in our communities to begin with. Then they turn around and tell us it's the NRA who are the racists because they won't make an official statement about Philando Castile? Both me and Dana Lash have spoken out about the Philando Castile verdict countless times. Personally, I feel it was a terrible tragedy, and I feel like Philando Castile should still be alive today. However, the NRA is an organization made up of 5 million members. There is no united opinion about the Philando Castile killing, and there was nothing clear-cut about this case. I'm just disheartened by the organizations and the people who are using his death to score political points. Do we not realize that the liberal democratic billionaire George Soros, who paid millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter, is the same person who contributed millions of dollars to try to elect Hillary Clinton? The same Hillary Clinton who said this?
The kinds of kids that are called super predators.
For years, the pervasive image of black men in this country has been one of violent, drug dealing, gangbanging, thug criminal,
super predators.
And this image has been pushed and reinforced by Hollywood and the liberal media outlets like CNN, NBC, MSNBC, and even Fox has been guilty of pushing these destructive stereotypes. Once again, Dana said it, and it's true. They use their media to assassinate real news. Because when people who don't interact on a daily basis with African Americans only know black people through the lens of these negative stereotypes pushed by the media, why would they not be overly fearful of black people with guns? I don't think the police officer who killed Philando Castile woke up that morning planning to kill a black man that day. But you have to ask yourself, when that officer walked up to Philando's car and realized he had a gun, did he simply see a citizen with a gun? Or
super predators?
I mean, think about it. During her campaign, Hillary Clinton was the biggest advocate for more gun control laws, the very gun control laws the NRA has been fighting against for several decades now. When these liberal politicians were trying to ban Saturday night specials, inexpensive guns that were affordable to poor people, the NRA stepped in to stop it. If Hillary Clinton got her way and these gun laws were passed, where do you think they're going to go to enforce them? The suburbs? Hell no. They're going straight to the inner cities to lock up even more black men on stupid gun laws that don't do anything, further perpetuating the broken home cycle in the inner cities, thus fulfilling the lack of economic viability to buy homes in places with good schools, forcing promising young kids to go to pre-prison institutions, and the cycle continues. Say what you want about the NRA, but they've done more for black gun rights and the image of black gun owners in this country than the bought and paid for Black Lives Matter ever has, and I have receipts to prove it. My shows on NRA TV have been going strong for years. We've taken anti-gun black women out to shoot for the very first time to show them the importance of the Second Amendment. We've flown a black woman across the country just to teach her the importance of firearm training to defend herself. I've had sit-down conversations with black men about how to improve the image of black gun ownership in this country. I've gone to the inner cities of Dallas to speak with the young black teen about his experience in not only the neighborhoods, but the educational system, and expressed to him the importance of the Second Amendment for African Americans from a historical perspective. We've spoken with black politicians who were politically Democrats, but understood the importance of the Second Amendment for the black community. We've had a conversation with the president of NAGA, National African American Gun Association, to bring attention to the important work they're doing for black guns. We've made countless videos about the violence in the inner city and how the people that need guns the most are the good, hardworking people in the inner city. We've had countless conversations with Maj Toure, the leader of Black Guns Matter, a program that goes from inner city to inner city, training blacks in those cities on the fundamentals of firearms and firearm ownership. Hell, Dana Lash, the woman in the NRA ad that Black Lives Matter is calling racist, narrated a 10-minute mini documentary about gun control's racist history and how it disproportionately affected black minorities in this country. All of this done under the NRA brand. The same NRA that Black Lives Matter says doesn't care about black gun owners. I can keep going. Who came to the aid of Josephine Byrd when her housing project wouldn't allow her to own a gun for her protection? The NRA. Who came to the aid of Shaneen Allen, the black single-parent mother of 2 in New Jersey, who was being tried for a felony conviction just for mistakenly driving across the New Jersey Bridge with a gun she had a legal Pennsylvania concealed carry permit for? The NRA. Who came to the defense of Otis McDonald, an elderly black man who had to sue the city of Chicago because he felt he needed a gun to shield his family from gangs and drug dealers that terrorized his neighborhood. The NRA. The NRA has been around for 145 years and have undergone a number of leadership changes. But throughout the entire existence of the NRA, it has always been open to all races. Hell, the NRA shooting range in Washington, D.C. was one of the few public places in the city that was not racially segregated back in the 50s. You don't get asked what race you are when you join the NRA. There isn't a whites-only sign at the annual conventions. There are no secrets here. The NRA is paying for this video, which is no surprise because they're a Second Amendment rights organization that fights like hell for the constitutional rights of all law-abiding Americans. The NRA isn't the one telling me I shouldn't own guns because I'm black. White liberal politicians are.
People will have to decide. Do we want to be a country where everyone is armed?
Super predators.
That, my friend, is white supremacy. When you use your power to write laws that deny my constitutional right under the Second Amendment to defend myself. Until this last election, liberal Democrats thought they owned the black vote. Now, what they're trying to do is create a boogeyman out of the NRA to scare black people back onto the liberal Democratic plantation. Because the biggest threat to the political monopoly of the Democratic plantation is free-thinking, independent African-American citizens who embrace the Second Amendment. And over the last decade, African Americans have been openly embracing their Second Amendment rights and buying guns, much to the chagrin of the liberal elite because they know that the NRA will start to look attracted to those African Americans embracing their Second Amendment freedom. A wise person once said, "People who are intimidated by you talk bad about you with the hopes that others won't find you so appealing." And that's what liberal anti-gun Democrats have been doing for decades, and now they're using Black Lives Matter to do it for them.
They use their guns to assassinate black people.
At its inception, Black Lives Matter came out to bring light to what they saw was the unjustified killings of black men by police officers. Mysteriously, now they've received millions of dollars from liberal organizations and billionaires. They're attacking the NRA and taking on a bunch of other extreme leftist issues that have nothing to do with the original purpose of the hashtag Black Lives Matter. So you have to ask, Black Lives Matter, what are you really fighting for? Just know that the NRA fights for the rights of every law-abiding gun owner in this country, including African Americans, and I'll continue to help them do just that. Oh, and by the way, the next time you make a video declaring you'll fiercely defend the First Amendment the same way the NRA defends the Second, you might not want to immediately demand they delete a video protected by their First Amendment right just because you don't like it. You kind of look like a hypocrite.